Hey guys, I am live. So I have had so many issues going live. I was on Facebook, I was on Instagram. Facebook alone, I had to go on live 3 times and stuff. So yeah, and Instagram, I started a live stream and then I got locked out of my Instagram account because I had logged in on my old computer here so that I could try to read the comments and announce the giveaway winner. So then I had to get back on that. So it's been a doozy, but I'm here on YouTube and it looks like everything's working fine. That's the benefits of using StreamYard. Sorry that I look very pale. But I'm gonna wait a few minutes and see if anybody comes on. Because this is a very special live stream. I am not doing this anywhere else. I wonder if I can share this anywhere. Honestly, yeah, okay, share. Yeah, because you will not find this anywhere else. I am going to do a top 10 fun facts about Mortal. And I'm only doing it here. I did not do that on my Facebook live stream. I did not do that on my Instagram live stream either. So this is very special. I'm going to wait a few more minutes for people to come on. But in the meantime, Mortal obviously launched today. It is a prequel to the Valiant series. So the main storyline, the main character, is Jace. And it takes place on a future Earth, basically. My phone is going to die. Anyways, it takes place on future Earth, and aliens have basically taken over Earth. They're called Aitons, and these Aitons have enslaved humankind, and so now humans are all enslaved. And Jace is a slave who grew up there. Who grew up as a slave, and he's now enslaved to a man named Archer. And he falls in love with Archer's daughter, which causes some trouble and things like that. So, real quick here, I am just going to share this broadcast, wait for some subscribers to get in. So far, it doesn't look like there's any viewers at all, but, that's okay. Sometimes social media is really hard to see, so I'm just waiting for things to load, basically, so I can share this around because I'm very excited and everything. So in the meantime, right now it is 22 in Christian Fantasy, which is the ebook store, and then it is number 72 in Christian Fantasy in the bookstore, and then it is number 86 in Religious Science Fiction and Fantasy, which is a Kindle. So, yeah, which that one is a really competitive category. So it's really exciting that it's in the top 100 on that one. So 86 is still really good. It doesn't seem like it, but it really is. So looks like we've got 2 viewers. So Hannah's on. Hi. Hello. I'm glad you're here. And then Rhonda Rail. Hi, I'm glad to have you both. So here in just a bit, I'm going to be doing top 10 fun facts about Mortals. So stick around. I just got to share this on Facebook real quick. But yeah, and so I'm just really excited. It's been a pretty good day. So I'm sharing that on Facebook, so hopefully we can get a few more people. All right, so top 10 fun facts about Mortal. Let's go. A little too enthusiastic there. All right, so fun facts about Mortal. I am not sharing this anywhere else. So number 1, the first fun fact is, let me take a drink first. Leave you guys in a little bit of suspense. All right, number 1. Oh, Hannah says I'll post in the Discord. Thank you. That'll help. All right. Number 1, the opening chapter of Mortal opens up with a race. And this race was inspired by the pod racing in Star Wars Episode 1. So that's essentially where I got the idea from. The races themselves are dangerous for humans. The Aitons, they use their powers to get ahead, and that makes it very dangerous for humans. And Jace, as a slave, has been ordered by his master to participate in the races. And it starts off with this really, really intense race that I honestly rewrote a little too many times. So that is fun fact number 1. So, fun fact about Mortal number 2. The events that take place in Mortal, let me rephrase that. The events that take place in the book Mortal take place just after another prequel to the Valiant series called Experiment. Essentially, the 2 books, Mortal and Experiment, are companion books meant to be read one after the other. So essentially, Experiment, the storyline happens first, and literally just hours later, Mortal begins. And the specific storyline, the events that take place, are connected between the 2. So they are meant to be companions. And I love Experiment. It's another one of my favorites. So, fun fact about Mortal number 3. The original version of Mortal had over 30,000 words in it. And so when I rewrote it, the word count became just 24,000 words. So yeah, I wrote it a long time ago, back when I was in like middle school, and it was terrible. It sucked. I left it alone for a very long time. And then after I got accepted by a publisher, I knew I was like, I got to get my butt in gear and get this book done. So I completely rewrote it. I didn't just take what was there and like edit it and stuff. I literally scrapped the old book and completely rewrote it. And when I did that, it went from 30,000 words down to 26,000 or 24,000. All right, so fun fact number 4. The original version of Mortal was started long before I began Hunter or even thought about the Valiant series at all. As I said, it was like middle school. I didn't finish the original for a very, very long time. And when I did, Raiden, the main character who's been going around finding all of these, the Chosen, Raiden originally had red hair. That's how old the original version of Hunter was. And you guys know that Raiden is actually now a parallel with Jesus. And he originally had red hair. So that was a thing. Joshua says, hey, Joanna, congrats on the release. Hey, Joshua, I'm so glad you're here. Yes, it's so exciting. It's been exciting. So we're going through top 10 fun facts, and we're on number 4. So the first one was that the opening sequence with the races was inspired by the pod racing in episode 1. Number 2 was that the events that take place in Mortal actually take place just hours after another Valiant prequel called Experiment ends. So Experiment happens, it ends, a couple of hours later, it continues in Mortal. So those are companion novels. Number 3 was that the original version of Mortal had over 30,000 words, and when I rewrote it, it became 24,000. And then I just got through talking about how Mortal was started so long ago. I didn't finish it for a very long time. And when I did, Raiden still had red hair. And the working title for the Valiant series at this time was actually going to be called something with the word star in it because I was inspired from Star Wars and Star Trek. So go figure. That was my young brain, and I'm ashamed about it. So, fun fact about Mortal number 5. I didn't rewrite Mortal until around the time that I got accepted by publishers Ambassador International because I knew that I needed to get the final version of it finished. It took even longer to convince myself to rewrite its companion novel, Experiment. I dreaded rewriting both Experiment and Mortal, but now I love them both dearly, and Experiment is actually probably almost my top favorite Valiant book of all time. It's probably just a little bit, I would say, tied with Samurai, if not more than Samurai. But Samurai is definitely still my favorite. It's just, I love Experiment. And so I'm very thankful that I rewrote it and got my butt in gear and rewrote them eventually. So also feel free to put comments and questions below. Or not below, but because for me it's actually to the side, but feel free to drop a comment and questions and stuff, and I'll answer them as we go. All right, so that was fun fact about Mortal number 5. So, fun fact about Mortal number 6. One of the scenes that I added into Mortal when I rewrote it was a scene at the end in the boss fight that actually parallels with the racing in the beginning in the beginning of the book. Originally, the racing was used just once in the beginning and never again. So now in this new version of Mortal, that's, you know, obviously for sale, racing is used again at the end, and so it parallels and it kind of brings everything full circle. So there is racing in the boss fight now. That was one of my favorite scenes that I actually added. Okay, Hannah's like, what? I didn't think I would ever hear you say that something other than samurai. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I get in a mood for a certain type of book. And so for me, it's like, yes, samurai is my favorite. I love the culture. I love the characters. But like, Experiment has that mood that I sometimes get in that just, oh, I love it. It's very quirky, and I don't know if everybody would like it except for me. But it, you know, I'm excited. It won't be published for a while though, because it comes with a twist with one of the Chosen that does not get revealed until like this fourth to last Valiant book. So you're looking at like 7 years from now before you guys will get to see that one. So Joshua says, I actually thought Immortal came after Mortal. Guess that would make Jace a bit too powerful. Yeah, so essentially this is a complicated timeline, but in simple breaking it down terms, Immortal takes place, which starts in 209 BC on Earth. And he lives his life, lives for about 2,000 years, all the way up until the year 2016. Can't talk about that. Spoiler stuff happens. And then the next time we see Jace is in the book Mortal, after about 300 years or so after that, after the Aitons have taken over Earth. And all he knows at that point is growing up as a slave. So he doesn't remember the events of Immortal. And Immortal explains why, and that gap there that's bridged, along with the prologue of Mortal, kind of sets that up. So basically, Immortal is a prequel to Mortal. Mortal is a prequel to the Valiant series, and then Experiment is a companion book to Mortal, because the main plotline with the mysterious beast attacks, the beasts are explained in Experiment, which is involved with another main character. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. It's pretty complicated. So Hannah says it grows on you over time. That's completely understandable. Yeah, basically. All right. So I think I was on number 6. Yeah. Okay. So I started to talk about Immortal now. Mortal fun fact number 7. Originally, Jace's backstory didn't feel like enough, because it was just, okay, he was a slave on Earth, future Earth, big whoop. So I came up with a new idea for him. And originally I was going to delete Mortal and just stick with his backstory in Immortal, where he lived through 2,000 years of Earth's history. And I was going to scrap Mortal altogether and get rid of it. But then rather than delete Mortal and change his story altogether, I found a way for it to fit together perfectly. And so this other part of his story is told in another Valiant prequel called Immortal, which you guys know about. So yeah, that's basically the story. And now I'm really glad that I didn't completely delete Mortal out of his history, because I really honestly thought about that for a long time because I didn't like it, and the old version completely sucked. But I'm glad that I stuck with it and that I rewrote it, and now it is a part of Jace's story, because I can't see starting Jace's story any other way. And I feel like Mortal is a good way to introduce him as a character and then get people hooked into him and want to know more, and then that's when you do Immortal. And so it's kind of like, it's a good way to introduce his character before you delve into the 2,000 years of history that he's got behind him. So so that's number 7. All right. So fun fact, Mortal fun fact number 8. His story continued to grow and expand until now Jace's story is the most detailed and extensive backstory out of all of the characters in the entire Valiant series. So obviously I have my favorite characters and I love a lot of my characters in The Chosen, and like I have my favorites, but Jace's is the most detailed because none of them live for 2,000 years of history that I actually planned out like I did in Immortal. So I can't wait to see how Jace interacts with Avarella and the other Chosen. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there is a book that I actually already have published and it's only 99 cents on Amazon. It's called Victorious. And it is actually a short ending to Assassin to tie Assassin back into the Valiant series. And there's a scene in there with Aiden, and Jace is actually featured in there, if I could spell victorious. So that is just one of several examples that I have of Jace interacting. And honestly, it was kind of a special scene because when I was trying to figure out, okay, what chosen is good enough for, to help Aiden through what he's going through and for him to talk to and stuff. And the answer, it just clicked with me about Jace, and it actually ended up being a really good moment. So I'm going to get you the link to that. It's a really short novella, short story thing, but there's really juicy stuff with Jace. And I'm planning on writing some more. I can't copy and paste this. Oh my gosh. I'm planning on writing some more. Because I really like to explore that, because when I wrote the original series, I never had any of these short stories. I never had any of these interactions between the different chosen and whatnot. Oh my gosh, I cannot copy and paste this blasted link. I don't like laptops. I want regular. Yeah, I can't. I'll get it to you sometime later, Joshua, if you're interested. So on the link to Victorious. Okay, so Joshua asks, so what inspired Mortal? What made you decide to create a character like Jace? It's been a long time ago, Joshua. I wrote this in middle school, maybe even before that. So this was before Hunter, when I first came up with the idea. And to be honest, I don't remember what my original motivation was at all. I just remember that I had this idea of future Earth, enslaved people, and just kind of the slave thing. So kind of like, I think I had kind of a Joseph style vibe mixed with just the idea of writing my own sci-fi-ish thing. So it was my first attempt at a sci-fi before I had even attempted to write fantasy. And then I also I had this really good idea for kind of a monster type not really movie, but a monster type book where you have the main characters dealing with some sort of big giant beast monster thing. And it kind of evolved from there. And then I also had, I remember, now that I'm talking about it, one of the main things that I wanted for it was I was so inspired by The Princess Bride. It's such a classic. It is the best, most original fairy tale fantasy type thing ever. And the opening of it starts off with this relationship between this girl and a farm boy who works for her. And she orders him around because they can't really interact together. And he always tells her, as you wish. And every time he says, as you wish, he really means I love you. And it's so romantic. And I was like, I've got to write this. And so I was a young middle school girl obsessed with this little romance. And I was like, okay, we're going to do a slave, but we're going to do future Earth. So there's aliens. And instead of just a farm boy low in station, we're going to do an actual slave. And the girl is the daughter of the man who owns him. So it's like, oh my gosh, you guys will get killed if you get caught, or he'll get killed if you get caught. And that was my first attempt at that. And basically that's where the idea stemmed from. And so it matured and evolved over time as I grew up into a young adult and an adult now. And as my writing matured and as my desires for the series matured and changed and stuff like that. So that's where the idea for Mortal kind of came from. It basically kind of evolved over time. So Hannah says, you've added so much to the Valiant universe in recent years. Yes, I have. Originally, it was just the original 17 books, which is the five prequels and then the 12 main books. But basically that didn't tie up loose ends from any of the main books. So like, say in Hunter, the book ends and like we've gotten all the way to the final Valiant book and we still don't know what happened to the Hunter, the world, and the side characters and everything. So that's where I went back and started writing the short stories to tie up loose ends and kind of give us a glimpse of, because we also never knew what was going on with the Chosen behind the scenes. So like earlier when Joshua talked about, I can't wait to see how Jace interacts with Avarella and all the other Chosen. that's what these short stories are meant to do, because originally there was no content, and I wrote all of that in recent years. So I had to go back and revisit these old characters that I hadn't written in for many years, because it was kind of a thing I did in high school. So it's been really fun. And some characters click with me easier than others. So, but yeah, this is great. So, all right. Back to my list of fun facts. So that was number 8. All right. So we're on mortal fun fact number 9. Assassin, even though it's book 4 in the Valiant series, takes place before Mortal, except for the final scene in Assassin, which goes back into the present. So originally, Assassin was a prequel novel, just like Mortal. And the reason why is that Aiden's story, Aiden is the first chosen that Raiden ever finds or encounters. And so the events of Assassin take place before Mortal in the timeline. And so I do believe the next chosen that Raiden searches for is Jace, and another twist in the book that I can't talk about, which is the events of Mortal. So Immortal happens first, long time ago in Earth in 209 BC, and then you have Assassin, and then you have Mortal, and then you have Experiment, and then you have Mortal. And that's kind of a general timeline. So Joshua says, how is the Valiant series expanded with the Republic Chronicles and the Dragon Empire? I know that's a lot. I gotta take a drink first. So now that I've taken a drink, let's delve into the wonderful world of my mind. Oh my gosh, it is expanded far beyond anything I ever thought I was capable of. I remember when I was young, I just wanted to write something like Star Wars, where it was a big epic franchise with all this world building, and I never thought I could achieve that. And so looking back, I just want to tell that little girl that, hey, it's okay, kid, you'll do it. I promise you'll do it, because it's so big. And to know that the history of the galaxy, what I call the Nasirian galaxy or the Nasirian legends, it literally goes from 209 BC on Earth all the way up to not only a future Earth that we don't know yet, but then past that to like a couple hundred, if not 1,000 years later, when the Magi are formed to protect the galaxy, which is the Republic Chronicles and the Republic era. And then beyond that, after that era comes to an end, trying to avoid spoilers, and then the Dragon Empire rises. And so, which is another couple thousand years beyond that. And it's so big and extensive that it's so exciting. And right now I'm writing book 3 in the Republic Chronicles, which is called Steel Magi. And that inspired me to work on making a video game of it. And I'm working a lot in what I call the Eos solar system, which is the Valiant Galaxy. But this is like a couple thousand years later. And so it's been exciting to try to, I think it was in Shadow Magi, which is Republic Chronicles book 2. I actually had to go back to one of the Valiant worlds, and I had to pick a few races from the Valiant Galaxy to bring into the events going on in the book, which I'm not going to spoil for you. But this is like 2,000 years later. So I had to go back to like some of the books and think, how would this have changed? And how would this world have evolved and changed in 2,000 years from the events that took place in the Valiant Galaxy? So, which I don't want to spoil that for you, but I was so excited. So I had to do a lot of critical thinking about, okay, and I actually had to find a new program and build a kind of a map and basically figure out how things change. It was so much fun. So it's just expanded. Because in my head, when I wrote the Valiant series, I remember my husband gave me the homework assignment that, okay, you are not going to write the final 2 books in the series and start this war for the galaxy until you actually build your galaxy. So I want you to build 40 worlds. He's like, I want 5 city worlds, 5 desolate worlds, 5 jungle worlds, whatever. And he just gave me like categories. And I built that, and that's what became the Valiant Galaxy. And at the time, that felt like the biggest I could do. So when I did the Republic Chronicles, I was like, let's go bigger. Let's go bigger. And so I was like, I'm not just going to do planets in a single solar system. I'm going to build solar systems. I'm going to build an actual galaxy. And so I started researching. I have tons of science books, tons of space books. And I was like, okay, this solar system has 2 binary stars. This one has a red dwarf. This one has a actual, like, the red dwarf is so powerful that most of the 80 planets here are desolate worlds, but there's a few that have life. And so, you know, there's a couple of space stations here. You know, there's one solar system called the Ison-Aron solar system with supergiants, which are actually not as powerful. Suns, by the way, just a little fun fact there. And so they actually, the elves there found a way to live on the suns there. And I had so much fun on it. So, I could go on and on, so I've got to cut myself off there, but I hope that answers your question. So Hannah asks, would you ever consider creating another series in a new era past what you've written and are currently writing? Yes, 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 yes. So, there's another series that I really want to do that involves the Phoenix Empire, which basically they're so powerful that they've managed to stay isolated and away from and self-sustaining, even through the Dragon Empire era. So it was the biggest challenge to the Dragon Empire, and the Dragon Empire never manages to take it over. And I wanted to kind of do a Phoenix Empire style book series. And then I've thought about potentially more prequels I could do leading up to the Valiant series. But at that point, we're getting into like prehistory on Earth and stuff. So there's definitely going to be after the Dragon Empire series for sure. I don't know if I could go even further behind before the Valiant series. All of the prequels in the Valiant series are pretty much the only prequels that I think I can do leading up to the Valiant series. So that's a good question. What real world history inspires Mortal? Real world history. I mean, just the basics of the fact that our world is kind of really crappy right now. And I feel like at some point, we're going to be going into a dystopia. Not really, because I know the Bible is true and stuff, but I don't know that real world history inspired Mortal. Real world history inspired Immortal, but that was mostly just Mortal itself was derived from a lot of like sci-fi style stuff. So I would say, I think I have a speech issue, so give me a minute here. War of the Worlds. It's a movie about aliens, and they were like buried here a long time ago. They had buried their ships and stuff, and so it comes out and they attack everybody and take over the world, and it was really intense movie. And when at first it was actually a radio show way back in the day before they had TV, and it was airing over the radio, and people thought it was real, so there was like a widespread panic and stuff when that movie radio show first aired. And I think now that I'm talking, I think that's what inspired my desire for the aliens taking over Earth. And that's why in mine, they have these magical orbs that were buried in Earth that actually has to do with some huge events in Immortal. And eventually they break out and take over Earth. So that's kind of what inspired that, but that's not real world stuff. That's just like a fictional thing. But what fascinates me is that when they read that War of the Worlds book over the radio way back in the day, I don't know what year it was, people panicked because they thought it was actually happening, and because they thought it was real. And so that, I think, would be the closest thing that inspired events. And so I was like, ooh, aliens burying something here would be kind of cool. But instead of doing it sci-fi and tech, like I did magical orbs. And then I gave those orbs powers, including the powers over time, which became kind of connected with Jace, if you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. But I don't want to talk about that because those are spoilers for Immortal. So the original map that you created was so cool. It was literally on the back of your door. Pretty nostalgic now. Oh, you mean that map? That's still there. As you can see, the papers are getting a little bit old and falling off now. But yeah, I actually added to it. I forgot a world somewhere. Somewhere. That yellow one. Oops. Right there. That yellow one. I added that the other day because I was editing Valiant Book 5, which is called Rogue. And my bad guy's perspective in it, he was like, he's talking to his underling. This isn't really spoilers, but he's talking to his underlings and essentially telling them, you go to this world, you go to that world, and you go to that world. And it's connecting to some of the other books. And I was like, well, I forgot that there's some events that take place on this one world, and I never named it. So in all the 40 to 50 worlds that I've invented for the Valiant series, I forgot one. And I realized, hey, in this one book, there's this world that the Chosen go to, and I never named it or invented it, and it's not a part of my galaxy. So I had to really quickly go at it in my notes, but I was like, I can't just leave it out. So I went ahead and added a sticker there. So that's why that's the only yellow one, because I forgot how I color coded them. And so it's basically out of place. Hannah's like, yep, that's it. So nostalgic. Yep, I see it every day because I keep it up there. I'm surprised because the actual posters themselves are staying really well. It's the little sticky notes that are falling off. What's it been like world building the Valiant series? Currently trying to figure that out myself as I look at my current work in progress. Yeah, I would say it's fun. I love doing it. I love world building. And I'm short, so I can't, like, you guys can't see me. But essentially, I really love it. And I'm pretty much done world building for the Valiant series. So right now, I'm just building a lot in the Republic Chronicles. I mean, which is sort of the same thing. It's just futuristic for the Valiant series. My throat. Give me a minute. Whew, this is like my third live stream. So my throat is starting to disappear. Honestly, with the video game that I'm inventing for the Republic Chronicles, I thought I had a lot of world building done, but I guess you don't realize the everyday today cultural stuff that you don't really need in a book that's realistic that you need to know in certain things. So as I'm inventing the video game, it's like, well, you start off with this character and it's like, well, what happens to people who are just now coming onto the capital planet? They have to register. Like, you can't just walk in and just become a diplomat, or you can't just walk in and get a job. So you'd have to prove where you're from. And because there's so many solar systems, you'd have to find out what planet you're from, what solar system you're from, what species you are. You'd have to know your parents. You'd have to verify this information. And I didn't really, like, this isn't relevant to the story. So I never knew any of this stuff. But as I'm inventing this video game, it's like, okay, we have to know all of this. So how does this work? How does this work? And like, where do you go to register this? What about charities? What about, if you want to become a diplomat, how do you become a diplomat? Well, let's say you have to commit so many hours of service to this thing and that thing. And so if you have a charity, where do you go to actually donate a charity? What kind of charities would there be in a galaxy that has 50 solar systems I've invented and tons of planets and all kinds of races? And I guess it's more like practical day-to-day life that would be boring to read in a book, but is exciting to play out in a video game because of the realism there and the quest style stuff. And that's got me to thinking a lot more practically. But as for the Valiant series itself, I kind of just made things up as I went and did not think about the worlds at all. So like Hunter, I remember really well because I did not world build that until I wrote Rebels, which was in 2020 when I did the Million Word Challenge. And so I knew that, okay, there were scattered villages and then there's Zagra. And so I built Zagra with all the biomes and I made those up and world built based on, I want my characters to have to survive a lot of danger, the hunters and the environment. So man versus man and then man versus nature. That's what I went with. And that's all I knew. So when I wrote Rebels, which is the collection of short stories that take place before Hunter, I wrote that as a part of the Million Word Challenge in 2020. I had to actually world build. So where is this village and where is that village? And like, I had to actually do some world building. So it was exciting, and I didn't do a whole lot of it until I got accepted by a publisher around 2018, 2019. And that's when I really got serious, sat down and started world building in the Valiant Galaxy a lot more. I would say I started world building about the time that I started writing Wicked, which is Valiant book 10, I want to say. And then when I got to Wicked, I was like, all right, so I had to overbuild a world, rebuild it, I should say, because of spoiler events. And then that's when my husband, after I wrote that one, I was moving into the final two books, book 11 and book 12. And my husband was like, all right, you got to build this galaxy. And so that's when I really started at that. All right, so I think we got one more fun fact, y'all. All right, number 10. Jace is the second chosen to be found by Raiden in the series. Mortal is just one book that makes up his backstory and how he came to be chosen, which you've kind of already knew that, but because I get ahead of myself. All right, so this has been honestly the most fun. Don't tell anybody else, but this has been the funnest live stream out of all of them, which is hilarious because I think this may be posted on my YouTube channel. So it's pretty much going to be out for the world to see. But yeah, last minute questions. I will take some. I don't know why I'm talking like Yoda. And then I'll get off here because my throat can handle anymore. And it's 8:40, so I have to get to writing and Steel Magi, guys. I am actually vlogging my progress as I write, so I'll be, I hope to be releasing my first set of vlogs because I did a test run with the vlogs with my book that I wrote called Blood of Beasts, which was my first mystery novel I tried to write, and I'm not sure how it worked. So I did that to test it, and so I'm going to be releasing those in October because mystery books match with October. And so then I'm going to see how they do. And I'm going to save the vlogs because I've vlogged my entire progress of writing Shadow Magi, Republic Chronicles Book 2. And I'm vlogging my progress as I write and work on Steel Magi. And I hope you guys enjoy them. I'm actually having a lot more fun with them now. And hopefully they're received really well because I will be releasing the ones for Shadow Magi and Steel Magi before they're published to kind of build up to their launch. So Joshua says, thank you, Joanna. It was amazing. Thank you, Joshua. It was fun. And Hannah said lots of fun. Thank you, Hannah. I had a lot of fun too. So thank you guys for watching. If you did and enjoyed this, obviously, as usual, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more writing videos every Monday. I'm actually growing the channel and I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming. So I've got a fun new video coming on October 3rd where I traveled to medieval times. You don't want to miss it. So I hope to see you there.